Now, from the Pope John Paul II Cultural Center in Washington, D.C., Raymond Arroyo.
Welcome to The World Over Live. We've got a packed show for you tonight. First, some sad news. Our dear friend, Archbishop Pietro Sambi, the Papal Nuncio to the United States, passed away on Wednesday. We'll remember him with some excerpts of past interviews, and Cardinal Donald Wuerl of Washington will join us to offer his reflections on Archbishop Sambi. And later, the president of Catholic University of America, John Garvey, will be here to discuss a return to single-sex dorms at Catholic U. And finally, for those of you who missed it, my interview with talk show host and author Laura Ingraham on our latest collaboration of Thee I Zing. And I'll read a hilarious entry from the first winner of our Zing contest later in the show. If you'd like to be part of the program, drop us an email at worldover@EWTN.com. Here's the brief news from the world over this week. The Vatican has recalled its ambassador to Ireland. This after Irish leaders, including the country's prime minister, harshly criticized the Holy See for its alleged role in Ireland's clerical sex abuse crisis. Vatican spokesman Father Ciro Benedettini said the recall of Archbishop Giuseppe Lianza shows the Church's surprise and regret regarding some excessive reactions. In Parliament last week, Prime Minister Enda Kenny said the recently released Cloyne report on clerical abuse exposes an attempt by the Holy See to frustrate an inquiry in a sovereign democratic republic, end quote. He said church leaders sought to defend their institutions rather than protect children. In addition, the government and all opposition parties unanimously backed a motion officially denouncing the Holy See. Father Benedettini said the recall shows the Holy See's desire to deal with the abuse situation objectively and with determination. And this past week, the U.S. Helsinki Commission gathered to discuss increasing violence against Coptic Christians in Egypt, especially young women. Michelle Clark, a professor of international affairs at George Washington University, confirmed that reports of kidnapping, forced marriages, and conversions began cropping up in 2007 and are more than isolated incidences. She added that some women are no longer leaving their homes for fear of being attacked. Jean Maher, president of the Egyptian Union for Human Rights Organization, said nearly 800 Coptic Christian women have been kidnapped, raped, and forced to convert to Islam since 2009. That number, she said, has increased since the revolution in February. According to Clark and Maher, Coptic families say police inactivity is greatly contributing to the abductions. And American atheists are at it again. A group of them have filed suit in New York asking a judge to order the removal of the 9/11 Memorial Cross from a new Ground Zero memorial. The cross-shaped steel beam left standing in the wreckage of the Twin Towers was moved to the memorial last week after being blessed by a Catholic priest. The president of American Atheists says they are concerned with equality and that the Christian community has taken over the memorial for itself to the exclusion of other religious and non-religious groups. They suggest a religious-neutral display that memorializes all equally, like a fireman carrying a victim or an American flag. Museum officials say the cross was chosen to go on display because of the role it played following the attacks, not for its supposed religious significance. As New York's same-sex marriage law took effect this past weekend with a deluge of weddings, the bishops of Maryland have denounced their governor for his latest attempt for a gay marriage law. Mary Ellen Russell, executive director of the Maryland Catholic Conference, expressed deep disappointment over Governor Martin O'Malley's recent decision to include same-sex marriage bills in a package of bills he'll sponsor during the 2012 General Assembly. Gay marriage legislation passed the Maryland Senate earlier this year, but was defeated in the House. Russell said that the Maryland Catholic Conference opposes the redefinition of marriage based on the clear understanding that the complementarity of man and woman is intrinsic to the definition of marriage. Archbishop Edwin O'Brien of Baltimore has written to Governor O'Malley asking the governor, who is a Catholic, to reconsider. And Archbishop Pietro Sambi, the Pope's diplomatic representative in the U.S., died Wednesday evening at Johns Hopkins University in Baltimore following complications from lung surgery. He was 73. Archbishop Sambi was a friend to this program and a personal friend who will be sorely missed. He is widely regarded as one of the Vatican's top diplomats. Archbishop Sambi began his tenure as the Apostolic Nuncio to the U.S. in February of 2006 and has surely left his mark on the American Church. In collaboration with the Holy Father, Archbishop Sambi was instrumental in the appointment of several key bishops in the U.S. They include Cardinal Donald Wuerl of Washington, Archbishops Edwin O'Brien of Baltimore, Alan Vigneron of Detroit, Timothy Dolan of New York, Jose Gomez of Los Angeles, and most recently, Archbishop Charles Chaput of Philadelphia. A full supermajority of archbishop appointments in the U.S. took place during his tenure. He was a regular fixture at the U.S. Bishops' Conference meetings and took the lead in the Holy Father's 2008 visit to the U.S. It wasn't long before the much-beloved Archbishop was tagged with the moniker Super Nuncio for his ubiquitous presence in the U.S. His family traveled here to be with him upon his death and have asked the faithful for their prayers. We were privileged to have Archbishop Sambi with us here when we inaugurated this set and for several interviews over the years. Here are a few clips. This first bite was a response to a caller, and they were asking what the Pope might say during his visit here in 2008, or rather, they were suggesting what he should say. Here's what the Archbishop had to say.
I would like that you discover this, listening attentively what the Pope will say. But I would give you, if you allowed me, a small fraternal advice. Don't ask the Pope to say what you want he says, but please listen to the Pope.
It was a delight and so outspoken. These other clips are about the papal visit, and here Archbishop Pietro Sambi is advising what makes a great papal visit and encouraging the faithful to pray for the Pope.
What is the success of the visit? It's not the success of the Pope. It's the success for American people. It means more love, more hope, more unity, more desire and engagement to build a better society and a better future. It's strange, but praying for the success of the visit of the Pope, it means praying for the success of the American people.
This is the chapel where you say Mass every day.
Every day.
Who do you pray for here?
I can tell you that in all my prayer in this chapel, I bring in front of the Lord all the American people. And I pray for the people of all religions in the States, but especially, of course, for the Catholic Church and for the Christians. We can be egoist also in prayer, praying only for ourselves. The interest of the others must be first also in our prayer, and invoke the blessing of the Lord, the joy of the Lord to all the American citizens, and the fidelity to the Lord in all the Christian world.
Joining us now is someone who worked very closely with Archbishop Sambi, particularly when the Pope visited the U.S. in 2008. He's traveling this evening, so please welcome via phone the Archbishop of Washington, D.C., Cardinal Donald Wuerl. Cardinal Wuerl, thanks for taking time to join us this evening.
Oh, I'm very, very happy to join you. Thank you for the invitation.
Tell me first about your experience working with Archbishop Sambi. I know you pretty regularly saw him. How did his approach to this diplomatic post differ from others? And what are your personal thoughts of your time with him?
Well, one of the things that always impressed me about Archbishop Sambi, there was a joy in his approach to everything he was doing.
Yeah.
His work was not easy, as you can imagine, representing the Holy See to the government of the United States, and then also being the Pope's personal representative to the whole church in our country.
Yeah.
But Archbishop Sambi, it always struck me that he took this diplomatic task and saw it as a true ministry. There was a joy in the way he did things. He was very open. He had a very friendly and engaging manner. But what came through was his love for the church and his love for the Pope. And I think that was probably the most endearing part of working with him. And as you pointed out, I had many, many opportunities. None more, though, than when Pope Benedict came to our country in 2008.
Yeah. Talk for a moment about his contribution to the church in the U.S. And if you would, place him in the historical context of his predecessors, Laghi, Cacciavillan, Montalvo.
Well, every nuncio that I have known, and it's now 25 years as a bishop and 45 as a priest, every nuncio that I have known brings his own particular gifts. And I think that's why we have all had that sense of being blessed, because every one of them has been gifted in their own way. Yeah. But I think what Archbishop Sambi brought, and he brings it, or brought it, at a time that was new for the church in our country. He brought a very open, very friendly, engaging manner at a moment when the church in the United States was entering into the new evangelization, when the church itself was recognizing we're at a new moment. The young people that I meet today, the young people I talk with today on campuses, in our parishes, these are the John Paul II people. These are the people whose experience of church has been molded by Pope John Paul. And they have this wonderful, fresh, driving love for the church. They want to know more about it. They want to know more about Christ. Well, I think Archbishop Sambi was here at just the time when all of that was beginning to take a very, very visible form in the church, and he encouraged it. I'll give you one example, if I may.
Sure.
We have every year, in the context of the March for Life, we have in the nation's capital the Rally and Mass for Life. This is to bring young people who are here for the March, to bring them to have the experience of prayer, of a Mass. The evening before, there's always the great Mass out at the shrine. But we have at the Verizon Center, which is the largest indoor venue in Washington, we have 20,000 young people. And the nuncio used to always come to that with a message from the Pope. And when I would introduce the various bishops who were there, people from their diocese would applaud. When I would say, and now we have the representative of the Pope, and all 20,000 started to applaud, Archbishop Sambi would enter into it. He would step up into the middle of the platform, he would wave, and the more he would wave, the more they would cheer.
Yeah.
And he entered into the moment, and he was just a delight to be with.
Yeah. No, there was that, and you hit upon it, his willingness to engage, and from my perspective, his willingness to engage the media, which is a rather extraordinary thing for a nuncio, is it not?
I think it's practically unique in his case, because a person in his position has to be weighing every word, knowing that media have as their responsibility to get their story out.
Right.
And so he always had to be attentive to what he was saying, but he didn't seem at all intimidated by the fact that what he was saying was going to be covered all over the world.
Mm-hmm. What will you miss most about him, and particularly the care he brought to helping the Holy Father make selections for the various dioceses across the country?
What I will, I think, miss in the time, in the 5 years that he was here, we really did become friends. Mm-hmm. Because he would call, I would call him, when he celebrated his 50th anniversary of priesthood, I had a number of bishops in from the local area, because otherwise his anniversary would have passed unnoticed. Mm-hmm. And there was just an easy relationship with him that I recognized with the other bishops too. Mm-hmm. I think that's what I'm going to miss. Yeah. The ease with which he would just engage everybody. Yeah. But at the same time, he was a very astute diplomat, mm-hmm. and you can see he clearly provided significant information to Rome, dealing with all of the issues here, including the nomination of bishops.
Yep. Cardinal Donald Wuerl, thank you so much for joining us with these reflections of Archbishop Sambi, and I hope we'll see you again soon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
And may Archbishop Pietro Sambi rest in peace. He was a dear friend on so many levels to so many of us, and the many evenings I enjoyed at his residence, in his company, will be sorely missed. I wish everyone could have had that opportunity. He was a delightful, and as the Cardinal said, a cheerful apostle in this land that wasn't his, but you could have fooled most of us. Up next, the president of Catholic University is here, to John Garvey, to talk about his decision to reinstate single-sex dorms on campus and the unexpected blowback he's receiving. The World Over Live continues in a moment. Stay right there.
Now, once again, Raymond Arroyo.
Welcome back to the World Over Live. Our first guest tonight is the president of the Catholic University of America, the national university of the Catholic Church in the U.S. Earlier this summer, he announced that he would be reinstating single-sex dormitories on the CUA campus, beginning with this year's freshman class. Here to tell us why he decided to make this change is CUA President John Garvey. President Garvey, great to have you on the program.
Thank you, Raymond. It's
been
very
wanting
nice
to
be
have
here.
you on for a while, really since you got the job a year ago, and I want to talk about that in a little bit. But let's start with, why do you think it's necessary to have single-sex dorms at CUA?
There are a couple of reasons, Raymond. One of them is that it's consistent with our own vision of what a Catholic university is supposed to do. We're concerned not just with the intellectual development of our students, but also with the kind of people they grow up to be. So throughout this first year, we've made it a program for my inaugural year to talk about intellect and virtue and the idea of a Catholic university. So this is in line with giving some attention to the virtues of respect for the opposite sex and modesty and a sense of privacy for students who are living in the residence halls.
And what has been the CUA experience thus far? What did you see in your first year that brought you to this conclusion?
Well, I can't say that it was as a result of judgments or activities that I'd seen in the course of the year. It was rather just the result of 30 years of thought about and the experience of raising 5 children of our own whom we sent to Catholic universities, and what we know about young people in general that led us to think that this was a good idea. It's also consistent, let me just add that, with other things that we do in the residence halls at Catholic University.
Like what?
This isn't the ordinary state school. We have a program for priests and religious women living among the students in the residence halls that we're beginning to develop. Our campus ministry people go from room to room at the beginning of the year, blessing each of the rooms in the dormitory. So it's it's connected to an entire pattern of life at the university.
There was a quote, and I want to get this correct, where you were quoted as saying one of the goals is encouraging virtue in students. How does this decision to move to single-sex dorms facilitate that goal?
Well, it's an interesting question whether it will actually produce more virtuous students, but it is a message that we're sending to the students about the way in which they ought to live their lives and treat one another. There's also some interesting evidence, social science evidence, that indicates that rates of binge drinking among students who live in co-ed residence halls are more than twice what they are in students who live in single-sex residence halls. And of course, rates of sexual activity among students in single-sex residence halls are lower than they are in co-educational.
Yeah, that's that Loyola Marymount study that you quoted in a very beautifully written piece in the Wall Street Journal this summer. And in that piece, you raised the two challenges that you see to students today, primarily one being binge drinking, the other sexual activity. What is the effect of those two phenomena on the school itself and on the academic achievement of the student?
Well, none of this is news to anybody who has grown up him or herself and been to a university or sent young people to a university generally. Both of those things have deleterious effects on students' attention to their studies and their own personal growth and development. I don't know that we need to explain why drinking to excess or why hooking up is not a good thing for young people growing up and learning to fall in love or giving attention to their studies.
Yeah, but I was shocked to learn in your piece, 40 to 64% of college students admit to hooking up, casual sexual encounters in college, and 17 and alcohol incidents being the leading cause of death for those aged 17 to 24. That's
that's frightening, and that too is not news to any parent of young people, all of whom have friends who have died that way.
Now, you know probably all too well what your critics are saying. 90% of colleges out there have co-ed dorms. It works fine. What are you trying to do here? Why are you trying to impose your morality on these kids who might or may not be Catholic?
Well, we're not imposing our morality. We're an option in higher education that young people can choose or not choose as they wish, and they've got plenty of opportunities for co-educational living if they want to choose another university. So I wouldn't say that we're imposing it, we're offering it as an opportunity.
Right. And this isn't cheap. This is probably going to cost the school something to do it, correct?
Well, of course, in the first instance, there are going to be changeover costs. We need to fit residence halls for one sex or the other. There's that sort of cost. There's also the cost of doing business in larger blocks of students. You know, we can't just admit the last person in that we might otherwise admit. We have to be able to fill both male and female residence halls, so we need to pay attention to that in our admissions process.
So you'll start with the freshman class.
We're going to start with the freshman class this year, and then the sophomore class next year, and so on until we're through the course of things.
Now, Professor John Banzoff of George Washington University recently filed a complaint against you with the D.C. Office of Human Rights, claiming that you are committing sexual discrimination by creating these single-sex dorms. You would say what?
It's an odd idea about discrimination. The complaint has been filed under the D.C. Human Rights Act, which was passed in 1977, and since 1977, nobody has ever claimed or suggested that having single-sex residence is sex discrimination. In fact, the D.C. Human Rights Act itself explicitly provides that single-sex colleges or universities are all right, so I think taking the lesser step of having single-sex residence halls is fine. I might add, let me add, because the way we think about sex in colleges nowadays is in a kind of Title IX frame rather than a Human Rights Act frame. But what we're doing is consistent with people's ideas about Title IX, that we should be concerned as universities about sexual harassment and about taking back the night and so on. Title IX itself includes an express protection for single-sex residences.
Yeah, I was perplexed by that complaint in that, I mean, unless you're giving the female dorm 3 bathrooms and giving the male dorm 8 bathrooms, how are you discriminating against one sex or the other? I found that an odd complaint.
I don't view it as discrimination myself.
Yeah.
Each has the same opportunities.
Yeah. There's been other critiques, and some have written in recent days that CUA is attempting to create what they call an alternative universe at college. The thesis being, why not expose these students to the things they're going to encounter when they leave the grounds of the college? Isn't college a place to begin to experience the world itself and not an alternative universe apart from it? You would say what?
I would say that college is a place where people are still growing in their intellectual development and in the formation of their own characters and their own grace, their growth in virtue, and that this is something that we ought to consider as part of what we're offering to students, the opportunity to grow in those virtues before they join the world. Is it an alternative universe? People have always accused the academy of being an ivory tower, a world apart, a different sort of place. And in some ways it is. In other ways, though, I think it offers them a view of life that they can live consistently throughout their lives, and it's something they can take with them into the world outside.
How is this, in your opinion, reflecting the Catholicity, which is exactly what Pope John Paul II called for, what Pope Ratzinger has renewed the call for, a truly Catholic identity at Catholic universities and institutions?
Well, this is a part of what we mean to be a Catholic university, this concern with the formation of our students and their growth in virtue while they're at the university. It's not the only part of what it means to be a Catholic university. It's connected to the kind of education the students receive in their classes in politics, psychology, music, art, engineering. It's connected to the rich spiritual life that we offer them for experiencing Mass and the sacraments and opportunities for service to other people. It's part of the entire way we look at education of young
no,
people.
I like the holistic approach. The other thing you've done is, for the first time, I guess, put basketball hoops on the campus. Why were there no basketball courts on this campus?
I'm not sure why, but it's something that we're improving. We need to pay more attention. We are paying more attention. My predecessor paid a lot of attention to the opportunities for undergraduate student education. Catholic University began as a university, as a graduate institution.
Right.
But one of the things that we have recently been putting much more stress on is what kind of experience and educational and growth experience are we offering to young people who are undergraduates at the university, and playing basketball and where you eat, where you study, opportunities for socializing, for experiencing the District of Columbia.
That's important.
And the nation's capital are all part of that. The cultivation of virtue enables the student to learn what the teacher is teaching. It is part of the language they both speak. To put it in concrete terms, student life and campus ministry, residential life, athletics, student organizations are not offices concerned with different parts of the day and different places on campus than academic affairs. They are integrally related. Pope Benedict said at this university in 2008 that this is a place to encounter the living God. This relationship elicits a desire to grow in the understanding and knowledge of Christ and his teaching.
Tell me about your first year at Catholic U, what you've learned and how this has changed you in any way?
It's been a really wonderful experience. I've been living at the university for the first time in my life. My wife and I always lived apart from the university, and I went there to teach. She sometimes went there to work in the administration, and we sent our children there. But we've been living right on the campus with the students, so I'm a resident of Catholic University, just like our undergraduates, and that's been, I would say, the most fun about being at the university, the chance to see our students at basketball games, at dinner, walking around the campus. It's been really fun, and that's what brought it to my attention that we didn't have enough opportunities for playing basketball or other things on the campus of the school.
No, it's great to see you when I'm on my way to the studio or stopping at the Basilica. I've seen you many times walking your dogs or out with your wife walking around. It's nice to see you a part and a presence on the campus, and I know the students feel the same way. We've had some of them intern for us here, and they were elated by your arrival last year.
It's really been great. It feels like home because we live there.
Yeah, well, I know they're delighted to have you there. Finally, I want to ask your thoughts on the passing of Archbishop Pietro Sambi, a dear friend of this program. And
a good friend at Catholic University, and I would like to say a good friend of mine. He was a wonderful representative of the Vatican here, and a very good friend of the university. He supported a lot of our both intellectual efforts. He himself was an educator, and also supported the university in things like the Cardinal's Dinner, which we hold every year. I'm going to miss him very much.
Me too. Well, thank you so much,
thank you
President
very much,
Garvey.
Raymond.
Thanks for being with us.
Nice
for more on
here.
the Catholic University of America and its President, John Garvey, visit CUA.edu. When we return, Laura Ingraham is here to zing you. Find out what I mean when the World Over Live continues. Stay with us. Thanks again.
Now, once again, Raymond Arroyo.
Welcome back to The World Over. My last guest tonight is the most listened to woman in talk radio. A former attorney and clerk for Justice Clarence Thomas, Laura Ingraham has become a voice for millions in America. She's a Catholic convert and author of a string of New York Times bestsellers. Tonight, she discusses her latest project, now enjoying its second week on the New York Times bestseller list, of Thee I Zing, America's Cultural Decline, from muffin tops to body shots. I recently interviewed her about our literary collaboration. Here's the interview. Should I issue the disclaimer before we start?
The fact that there's a frightened man in the boat with me on the cover of this book. Are we putting up a full screen now?
Yeah, it's up.
Do.
So now,
okay, it's
and
done.
They can obviously see that's
well,
a favorite host.
Can you see that? Yeah, that. I don't think that exactly exudes confidence to the American people to see you petrified in a 1700s wooden skiff, as I am so now, confidently leading the
cover.
boat.
Well, that's why I'm petrified, because you are leading the expedition.
Yes. Well, it is a mock-up, obviously, a little spoof on Washington's Crossing the Delaware, the iconic painting, and it's Washington wants to lead and wants to start this new nation and the culture and politics all together and independence and all that, and yet there were lots of challenges for Washington at the time, big challenges, and we similarly have big challenges in our culture. You talk about the culture all the time on this program.
Yep.
So beyond politics, beyond economics, beyond terrorism, we have our culture to deal with day in and day out. So basically over the last couple of years, you and I have been chatting about some of the various horrors that we observe on a daily basis in the culture. Some of them might seem very small to you, but in their totality, people, doesn't it make you worry about the future of the country?
Well, we're
and
don't
you want to laugh
of them.
at it? So that's kind of how it all happened.
Now, let's talk, why this turn away from politics? In the past, you've done a lot of political books, but there's kind of a satirical edge in your previous book as well as this one.
Right. Obama Diaries was kind of a spoof on the Obamas, what they really think behind closed doors, the mother-in-law, Michelle, plotting the garden, literally and figuratively, and what that all meant, sort of the backdrop of their life together. And a lot of that was fiction. This is a complete turn because, guess what? I'm now a mom. I'm a mom of 3 kids, and this is my world. I'm talking to other mothers all the time, whether it's in carpools or play groups, and we're sitting kibitzing and so forth. And so many of them, beyond politics, are really worried about whether it's what's on the billboards and the music lyrics, how their kids are speaking, or other children are dressing, the play date mania that we have in the parenting life today, just all the trappings of parenthood and the culture.
How has being a mother changed the way you look at that culture?
I'm worried about what's coming down the line. I'm worried about what's around us now, but I'm trying to figure out creative ways to try to make my kids think it's cool not to be one of the
pack.
Yeah, the pack that carries itself in a particularly unflattering and undignified way. So it's a challenge. That's
let's get into some of the critiques that you raise in this book. Disgrace Book is a chapter here where you kind of take on technology. What is wrong, Laura Ingraham, with technology? If there's anyone tethered to technology almost nonstop, it is you.
You people have a policy on this in this studio that guests have to drop their phones in a basket.
Confiscated
it's like
at the door.
Second collection plate at Mass. You're like, oh, the second, okay, and drop it in. You have to drop that phone in. But I'm part of the problem, and part of this book is admitting to myself, like a 12-step program, right? I am a tech zombie, and I am part of the problem. You become part of this universe where you're gobbling up all this information all the time. But much of it, not all of it, but much of it is extraneous, unnecessary, and takes you away from living life in the moment and in the time that you're supposed to be experiencing something. Instead, you're holding up the phone. Where is my phone, by the way? Oh, hold on, 1 second. Okay, so you're holding up the phone.
They apparently didn't confiscate it.
I should actually video the segment while it's happening and then see if I can actually pay attention to the very perspicacious questions you're asking.
But
you know, people
you have a lot of experience with that sort of thing.
Well, you know, people are, you're on a date, you know, you and Rebecca, you're on your date night, and let's say you and Rebecca are at date night, and honey, the kids had such a great week, and you're like this. Oh yeah, Oh yeah,
Because you're reading the text.
How long do you think you'd be sitting at that table?
Not for long.
No, but that's what's happened to us, and so a lot of it is a spoof on that people who will line up for days to get the iPad 3 next year, but how many of them would line up to give blood to a distressed, you know, neighbor? Maybe a lot
or
of them,
relative, for that matter.
But it's all something else is going on here. We're hungry for all this stuff, but it's not really making us happier.
What is a laptop person?
Well, have you guys gone into these coffee shops, right? We go into these coffee shops and people are sitting there, and for the life of me, I have no idea what they're doing. But they're there for hours or days. I mean, some of them, by the smell of them, they've been there for weeks, okay? And you try to even get a gander at what brilliant masterpiece that they're compiling on their screens. They cover it up like it's Fermat's theorem, part 3, okay? They are so protective of their screens. Meanwhile, you go up and, hey, what's going on? What are you writing something?
No communication at all.
They look at you like, how dare you cross into my aura space? They're like, this is a Starbucks, okay, dude? You're not Hemingway, and don't pretend you are. But it's the whole land of the zombies.
There's a chapter here on religion that I found very funny.
Now, is this where my seat ejects right out of the building?
No, not yet, not yet.
Okay.
And you write, faith. The chapter is eat, pray, just keep God out of it, which kind of sets the tone.
All right, eat, pray, love.
Faith is a gift, you say, and apparently there are a lot of Americans in the returns line. What does that mean?
Well, it's just, I think, for a lot of folks, faith becomes something you in passing say, oh, yes, I believe in God and so forth. But the trendy thing to do is to not often stand up for your faith in public.
Or be a member of any specific faith.
Or just be, excuse me, well, I'm spiritual, but I'm not religious. And then, you know what I say to that? Actually, I'm religious and not spiritual at all. You know, so then I just, so they kind of, you know, it's like, hold up garlic and keep me out of the room. So no, but it's a situation in our country, I think, where our faith has become untethered to the world around us, and it's a bit of an afterthought, and that's why, you know, EWTN and everything that you guys do is so great, because it becomes part of your life, and it's fun, and it's actually really liberating. It's not, as the atheists want to point out, a prison or a straitjacket. I mean, my faith is, I'd be a real bore right now if it weren't for my faith. I'd be, I mean, come on.
Now, you point out some outrages here that I think many in the audience will share.
Oh, no, mass? Can we talk about?
Yes, go ahead.
How many times have you heard either a relative of yours, or my mother would say this when we would go to church, it was before I became a Catholic, will you look at that one? My mother, God rest her soul, was so funny. Will you look at that one? What is she wearing to, you know, in the
some
pews?
Of the outfits.
No, excuse me. It's soccer practice and church. That's just one continuum, or mass. It's all the same. You're in your cleats, your shorts. And I would say, Ma, come on, Ma. Jesus wore sandals. And so she says, when what's-your-my-face over there starts turning water into wine, then you can wear what they just wore. But it's just a sense of, I don't know. I mean, it seems to me, I'm old-fashioned, but what you wear isn't everything, of course, and it, you know, so forth. But it is something, and I think we can probably do a little bit better.
Well, you show respect. You show respect by what you wear and how you carry yourself.
May I share a story with you? May I share?
You may share any story you wish.
So I'm lined up at confession. Now, this must have been, I think I emailed you when this happened. This was, and it made it in the book, it was about 2 months ago, okay? And there's a long line, okay? It was on a Saturday. And I'm thinking, you know, of course, I have to confess half the things I'm thinking in line to get before I get into the book.
Including half of this book,
yeah,
I might add.
Yeah, I'm right. So I'm like, oh, come on. And long confessor, and then I'm like, okay, waiting. Pops out of the box, and it is a woman, and I'm talking about Jacques Cousteau fitting spandex. And I mean, that is tight. There is water seal on that, okay? And I'm thinking to myself, what is going on? Did we go right from Bikram yoga right into the... And then I go, and I actually confess that, because, well, who am I to say what people should be wearing in confession? It's ridiculous. It's great they're going to confession. What is wrong with me?
But there has to be a standard for what you wear.
I think so, because otherwise we will be showing up with adult diapers and Huggies all mass. I mean, soon it will be just that point. I mean, it'll be a few like really bad Italian horn chains and some like, and then it'll be, a Pampers, and that's
Watch it. Don't talk about the Italians.
No, I'm practically Italian.
Oh, you're an honorary Italian?
I am. The Italians say that about me.
Okay, well, we'll see.
Yeah.
There's
but
a parenting,
just the chains with nothing else.
There's a parenting chapter here that really is funny, called Mommy Make It Stop. You take on play dates, what you call play hates. Now, what can possibly be the matter with children getting together for organized play?
My children probably never be invited on another play date, which is fine by me. Well, here's what happens, okay? I'm made to feel somehow that I'm not a good mother when someone's child, God bless her, comes into my home and looks around. We have toys, but we don't have a toy,
It's not Toys R Us.
We don't have our own Toys R Us in the basement, okay? Mom, are those all the toys they have in this house? Oh, that was the first comment. My first play date, ever, first play date. And she said, do you have any other toys? And I looked at little Bitsy and I said, no, we actually have a whole toy-making factory out back for the good children.
Oh, you are cruel.
No, what is wrong with me that I'm getting into an argument with a 6-year-old? Is there something? There is something deeply wrong with my view of the world.
I was going to bring that up, but I thought I'd save that for the therapy section later.
The play dates thing is more, I think, let's face it, and I've been guilty of this, and I'm spoofing myself because this is part me. Sometimes it's for the mothers, right? Yeah. It's really the mother's timeout, right? So they can sit around and go, oh, what did you do? Oh, this happened and this happened.
Or they can just drop the kid off.
Yeah, just dump the kid off. I got to get a manicure now. By the way, I do need a manicure. So, yeah, I need to get a manicure and drop the kid off. And we hope that we will have checked out the parents in the homes. So when you come back, your child has not just watched, Freddy Krueger, the Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3 when the time you come back and pick her up.
There's another chapter here on habits, manners, missed manners, you call it.
Yes.
And this is about dress, decorum, the way people behave, our habits. There's a section on pickers, people who pick orifices in public.
This is a low. This is a low. By the way, Raymond was a collaborator in this book, and that was the stuff he wrote.
No, wait a minute.
You wrote that.
Wait a minute.
No,
you're going to out me on the pickers chapter?
I didn't want to put that in the book, but you insisted that go in.
The lady picking her toes on the bus in Disney was your contribution, as I recall.
Look, it is.
And wait till you read this.
It is
and write the letters to her.
It is, if I have to say, one of the most side-splittingly hilarious parts of this book. And it's about how shameless can we be in public? I mean,
have we lost all decorum?
I mean, why bother? I mean, it's bad. No, it's bad. It's bad. But I can't believe you brought that up.
I bring it up for this reason.
I'd expect that on Jon Stewart's show, but not on EWTN.
I bring this up because
maybe on the Today Show.
In the title of this book, you mentioned muffin tops.
Oh, yes.
America's cultural decline from muffin tops to body shots. I've mentioned that, and half the people I read that title to, you know what they say? I love muffin tops. I have them in the morning.
The word has been absolutely bastardized. It's been taken away from our vernacular and twisted into something
what do you mean?
So mean. Well, there are people who are of a bit of a heavier girth and larger people. I want them not to be dictated to or talked down to or demonized, because people come in all shapes and sizes. I tell my kids that all the time. I think what might be a bigger problem is when people who are perhaps size, a little larger, 14, 16, 18, or men, when you're in that size 40 Sanzabelt pants, it's probably not a good idea to try to slip into those size 28 straight leg Levi's you wore in 8th grade, okay? And when you do, ladies and gents, there is a vision on the horizon that appears to be a straight, really sausaged in pant, and then a spillover on the side. Are you catching my hand motion?
Around the waist,
spillover on the side, and the vision, the silhouette, is that of a luscious and delectable muffin top. I always eat the muffin tops, don't you? But I don't necessarily want to see a size 18 in a 0 pants.
Okay, but people are going to look at this and say,
it's petty.
Aren't you just being petty and grousing? And how is this the end of American culture?
Any one of these things, isn't really a big deal. It's just funny. But all of them together kind of tell us something about the direction we're going in. And there's a serious undergirding to what I'm saying. You're right. A lot of these are pet peeves. They're just observations. And look, we all, I mean, believe me, I'm at the top of the list of my own observations of foolishness. But altogether, I think it says a lot about who we are today, where we're going, and what we present to the world, what we present to kids, most importantly. So in the manners chapter, I write about, these conversations that you overhear when you go to the grocery store. Two grown men, or sometimes a man and a woman, saying the most horrible things to each other in public. Maybe they're joking, but the words and the language they use. Filthy. And my daughter or my son will say, "Mommy, what does so-and-so mean?" Or "What does that mean?" And I'm thinking, then they see the children. And I'll say, "Excuse me, there are children here. What am I supposed to do about it? I don't have kids. You deal with your own kids." And I think to myself, okay, that's not just a mistake or a slip of the tongue. That's a willful, in-your-face, I'll do whatever I want, and I don't care how it affects the young people. Really, this book is I hope, a cultural intervention. A way for us to laugh through the summer. A lot of stuff is tough out there for people. People to laugh at, because we all are guilty of some of this. Yeah. And also just to kind of grab you by the lapels, let's save this culture. Let's see what we do. Let's try in our own ways, in our own homes, do a little bit better. And I think then we'll really have a big smile on our face by the end of it.
It helps. After reading it, a number of people have emailed me and said, who've gotten early copies, they're noticing things in their world, and they say, "Oh my gosh, you've captured this. Your book has changed my life," a writer sent us the other day. Yeah. It's interesting how they kind of pick up, they're just newly attuned, I think, to things in the culture that otherwise went by them.
And things, for instance, like, even when you travel today. Remember traveling? I mean, I still remember the few times I traveled with
Remember, we're about to go on a book tour.
Well,
we'll
exactly. No, but I'm just saying when you were younger, I'm much older than you, but when younger, and people traveled, they really dressed up. Yep. And now, isn't it quite shocking to see someone dressed up on a plane?
Well, now
that's an aberration.
Well, now they're in pajamas and flip-flops.
Oh, no, that's the dress-up people. Those are really dressed up in the pajamas. No, it's the singlets and the hairy arms and the. By the way, people, if you learn anything in this segment, do not reach into the seat back compartment in front of you. Never reach into that.
What's in there?
You will find all manner of old grilled cheeses, used wipes. I mean diaper wipes. I mean, the baby wipes.
Have you done an exploratory of all of these seatback
Raymond,
compartments?
I practically travel with my own hazmat team now. I am a real, it's sad. But, why can't we do better than that?
What do you want people to do after reading this book of Thee I Zing?
I want people to, first of all, in this summer of recovery, are we still recovering from last summer of recovery? I want them to laugh. I want people to take a moment, laugh, think about all these things, from religion to schools, what's happening in our schools, what's happening on television, what's happening.
Pop culture.
Lyrics, it's a big part of this book. It's everywhere. You are assaulted by sounds and sights, most of them unwanted throughout your days. Think about it. Don't just let it all become wallpaper. Think about ways that you can affirmatively make a statement. Maybe it is calling someone out in a nice way. I understand you're in a heated argument, but I have a child here, and it really would be great if you, kind of. And then, most times people will say, "Oh my goodness, I'm sorry," and maybe they'll think next time not to behave that way. Or maybe, something. If you mind not diapering your child on the pull-down tray table on the plane, that would be great, because my son often puts his pretzels on there and eats them off the bare tray. Just do it in a nice way, and then they don't listen, well, then they're part of the larger toxicity.
Of Thee I Zing, America's Cultural Decline, from muffin tops to body shots, is available at retailers everywhere. For more on Laura and of Thee I Zing, you can visit her website, lauraingraham.com. And we've been holding a Zing contest where you send us your funniest observations of cultural outrages and what you or someone else did to rectify them. The best entries win a free copy of the book or the audiobook. If you want to get your Zing send it to raymond@raymondarroyo.com and put Zing in the subject line. Now, here is our first winning entry. This comes from Mary Valenti. This is really funny. Mary's mother was attending a wedding in Long Island, she writes. The parish priest was conducting a marriage of a nouveau riche family, and the bride was wearing a low-cut wedding gown, which seemed to say, "Spring is busting out all over." The priest felt that you don't do that in the presence of God, especially when you're kneeling in the presence of God during a sacrament. The parish priest asked the altar boy to unfold one of the two corporal cloths on the altar, and he proceeded to place it on the bride's low-cut wedding gown. The priest told the bride that she was looking up and he was looking down, and he did not like what he saw. Zing! Until next week, you can find updates and the occasional commentary by following me on Twitter or on my Facebook page. You can get to both by visiting RaymondArroyo.com. The links are on the left-hand side of the site. Those of you who follow me get not only previews of our shows, but additional material from our guests. And next Tuesday, we'll be live in Denver for the Knights of Columbus Supreme Convention. We hope you'll join us. Until then, we'll be scouting the world over for all that is seen and unseen. On behalf of the staff and crew of EWTN News, I'm Raymond Arroyo. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye now. Wow.